The Indian economy has been going through a severe economic crisis in the last 18 months, with the momentum of economic growth far slower in the last 2 years compared to the rapid growth rate of about 8 to 9% that we were seeing in India for many years previously. The reasons that we've seen this very sharp slowdown in Indian economic growth are very much related to the high rate of inflation in 2011 and the significant tightening of monetary policy that has occurred subsequently. And as a result of that, the Indian manufacturing sector has slumped into a recession. The economy as a whole at the moment is growing at a pace of about 5%, but manufacturing output is down about 2% year on year. And key sectors of the Indian economy, like the auto sector, are seeing even more severe declines in production, with auto production down about 10% year on year at the moment. The prospects for the Indian economy in 2014 are still for relatively constrained growth. I think it's going to be very difficult to see any significant recovery in the Indian economy in 2014 because monetary policy has still been tightened towards the end of last year and again in the early part of this year due to still high inflation. And the key priority of the new central bank governor, Rajan, is to really bring inflationary pressures under control in India. So he's going to be quite reluctant to significantly ease monetary policy until he's satisfied that inflation has really been brought under control. And that's why we don't think that the Indian economy can stage a significant recovery this year. Growth this year is probably going to be in the order of between 5 to 6%, which is still far below the pace that we have seen in the past. Over the last decade, India grew at around 8 to 9% per year for many years. So there's no likelihood of an early return to those sorts of rapid growth rates over the next year or two. However, I do think Governor Rajan is trying to bring in much greater discipline into managing the economy so that inflationary expectations are kept under control. The problem that he faces is that a lot of the drivers of inflation are externally caused. In particular, oil prices are one factor that they have no control over in the central bank. It's driven obviously by world supply and demand, and that's an important driver for Indian inflation because energy is a large part of the overall inflation basket. I think one area of particular concern this year is that the manufacturing sector is already in a recession, and that with monetary policy settings still very tight, it's hard to see how the manufacturing sector is going to see a large rebound. So I think it is going to be a difficult year ahead for India. And of course, to add to the uncertainties, there's also general elections in May, and considerable uncertainty about the shape of the next government and the leadership of the next government. So global investors are treating India with considerable caution because they're worried not only about the macroeconomic fragilities of India's large current account deficit and also its fiscal deficit, but they're also worried about the political outlook as well. The Indian economy is facing a number of significant downside risks in the year ahead. In particular, I think the macroeconomic imbalances remain a very big concern to global investors. A key concern is the large current account deficit, and although India has taken some steps to try to narrow that, the fundamentals of its current account position reflect a chronic deficit, which will take many years to address. Another big concern for global investors is the large fiscal deficit. So these twin deficit problems that India faces are going to be very hard to tackle, and it's certainly hard to see how anything will change significantly over the next 12 months with these risks. Against a background of Fed tapering and concerns amongst global investors about emerging markets in general, India does remain one of the fragile emerging markets because of these current account problems, the external account weakness, and the rupee had been depreciating very sharply last year, and we could see a recurrence of the Indian rupee again entering a period of weakness. So there are a lot of risks that India confronts. The biggest challenge of all will be to establish a downward path for inflation. India does have chronic inflationary problems. There's structural problems in the economy that are driving inflation. And unless inflation can be brought under control, monetary policy will not be able to be eased and the economy cannot rebound.